Or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I am the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is a 30-minute webinar, so we have about 30 minutes worth of content to go through. Today we're going to be talking about member tools and reports. So for people that haven't spent a lot of time poking around in the system, I'm going to show you some of the things that are available to just about all members out there, depending on your permissions in the system. Give you some ideas of how you can make life easier using BNI Connect, using some of the things that are built into it. This is a live webinar, so if you have any questions as we're going along, please feel free to use the questions module and type your questions in. Also, if you are using a computer that has a microphone, or if you're dialed in via one of the telephone numbers, you can always type in a question or raise your hand or something, and I should be able to unmute your microphone and you can speak your question instead. Now, this webinar is being recorded, both the content and the questions and answers, and it will be made available on our YouTube site at a later time, probably in a couple of days as soon as I'm able to get it uploaded. You'll be able to find those in two places. You can go to the support site by clicking on the question mark here in BNI Connect, and if you go to the support site and then scroll down to the bottom, you will see all of the recorded webinars by month. So you should be able to take a look at those. You can also go directly to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. And you'll find all of our webinars up there, all of the versions of them that we've got recorded, including some special notes from Dr. Meisner up there. So do take a look up on youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, as well as on the support site. Now, I always like to start these webinars with just a quick story. And one of the things is that when you get into BNI Connect, before you even start playing around with all the reports and the tools, one thing that you definitely want to do is to make sure that you update your profile. Now, your profile is how people are going to view you in BNI Connect. So when they find your account, either they want to pass you a referral or they want to be able to contact you for more information, you do need to make sure that you have a complete profile filled out. Let me tell you a quick story. I was sitting here in my office. I am a member as well as a director here in the Rhode Island region of the United States. And a client of mine walked into my office and they said, hey, I need a referral. I'm like, great. How often does that happen? I'm just sitting here in my office and a client walks in looking for a referral. I said, sure, how can I help you? And he said, listen, I have a bookkeeper. I have a full-time bookkeeper, but she needs some tutorials on some advanced things in QuickBooks. So I said, great. I have somebody in my chapter that did that, and I really wanted to use BNI Connect to get this information to this person. So I'm going to go to our test site right now because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here. But I went to find a member, and I looked up the member's name, and I found them. But what I found when I pulled up their profile was not a whole lot of information. It didn't have a picture. It didn't have a logo. It didn't have any of their links to their website or contact information, no description of their business. It was, for all intents and purposes, an empty profile. Now, I really wanted to just print this out and pass this over to my client so they had more information about. If somebody had done this and looked me up, for example, they went to find a member in my own region, they looked me up, or they were looking for my services, and they come across me, this is a bit more descriptive. It has my phone numbers, my website, my company information, all of my social media links, the ability to send me an email right from the website. It has my logo. It has my business description, my ideal referral. So a real visibility and credibility builder right off the bat. So if you have a chance, please do fill out your profile. That is the first tool that you want to use, is your member profile, because people are passing referrals cross-region, around the world, and a lot of it is based on the first view of how you look in your BNI Connect profile. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today, but the way to update almost all of this information, first log into BNI Connect, and this is the page that you should see. Click on the My Accounts button in the upper right-hand corner, and this will take you to all the different parts of your member profile. So you can go through, and this is that My Business description that is viewed on the public websites. Your keywords so that people can find you based on what it is that you do. Go through and upload a picture and a logo. You can also change your username and password if you'd like to. go through and update all of your contact information, make sure your address is correct, all of your social media links and your company's website, and make sure you fill out your bio, a couple of commercials, your games profile, and your TOPS profile. You may want to start with this TOPS profile because this is the one that appears up on the BNI websites, the regional websites that everybody in the world has access to, not just the members of your chapter. But let's go back and let's take a look now at some of the things that you can do as a member just by default in the system that you may not have seen before. Now, most of the things are available either two ways. There's operations and reports up here, or if you click on your chapter shortcut link, you'll see all of the different functions are listed here. And this is a customized list. So you can change these functions around as you get used to them to the things that you're going to use more. I'm going to go in through the traditional way right now. And the first thing I'd like to show you is some things that are under the operations menu. So if we go to operations chapter, now operations are things that you can do or when you want to perform a function in BNI Connect. So if we go to operations chapter, we'll see a bunch of different options. Now, depending on what your role is in BNI, some things may be hidden and some things may be visible. So I'm a system admin, so we're going to see all of the options here. But as a member, let's say, if you were a vice president or a membership coordinator for your chapter, you would see things like meeting management. If you are not a vice president, you probably won't see this. But there's a couple of things under this particular operations that I'd like to show you that all members have access to. And that is this bottom one here that says create email. Now, traditionally in BNI, before BNI Connect, if I wanted to send an email to all of the members of my chapter, what do most people usually do? Well, we go back into our email and we kind of look for the most recent group email that somebody sent out, and then we hit reply all so that hopefully it goes to all of the members of our chapter. Well, using the Email My Chapter button, we can get a list of all of our chapter members with one click. So again, if you go to Operations Chapter, Create Email, and click on Email My Chapter. And what this will do is it will pull up all of the email addresses for the members of your chapter. What you can do is highlight these. So you drag your mouse and highlight them all. You can also hit Control-A on your keyboard, and that will select all of the members in here. Right-click and choose Copy, or hit Control-C on your keyboard. And then just with whatever email program you happen to be using, for example, I happen to use Microsoft Outlook, I can paste those into the CC or the BCC field or up in the To field, and I can write my email. Now, the great thing about this is that the email address list will always be current. So as new members come into your chapter, and as members leave your chapter, the email addresses will be adjusted immediately by the system. So you can always be sure that you're getting all of the right people in this email that you're going to send out. Now, I'm not going to hit send because I don't think my chapter members will like getting an empty email from me, but that's an easy way to get those email addresses for your chapter. Another great thing that you can do is to invite visitors through BNI Connect. And that's something that I always struggled with as a member as well. So a lot of times I would want to invite somebody in my chapter, but I just never really wanted to take the time to write out that big, long email and look up the address and the directions and type out all the stuff that you just keep typing over and over and over again to visitors of your chapter. So in the system, under Operations Chapter, there is Create Email and Email Visitor Invitation. Now, you can try this out for yourself by sending an invitation to yourself if you'd like to see what it looks like. Now, all you need to do is enter in the name of the visitor. So I'm going to enter in Bob Smith, the company name, and the email address. Now, I'm going to put my own email address in so that this email comes to me, and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. And then your own personal message. And your personal message will be inserted into a larger template. So I could say, let's say that I met Bob Smith. It was great meeting you. at the networking event. I look forward to seeing you at my chapter meeting this week. And then I'm just going to hit the send button. So now this email has gone out. It goes out immediately, and it will go to the recipient that you put into that message. Now, we do have a question real quick from Judith Albert. She says, will email my chapter also send a copy to yourself? And when you pull up the email addresses, so I have the email my chapter list here, your name will be included in that list. So we can see that for my chapter here, I do have my email. So that will then also copy myself if I was to send that email out. And it will also appear, because you're using your own email program to do this, it will appear in your sent items. So you'll also have a copy of it that way. So hopefully that helps, Judith. All right, so let me pull up a copy of what the email looks like when you are sent an email, when you send a visitor invitation in the system. And here's a copy of what the email looks like when it goes out. So you can see that it's branded, so it has the BNI branding on it. It has a nice invitation graphic up here, and you can see that it looks like, if anybody has ever used the postcards, these are what the postcards used to look like. And it'll put in their name, and then it'll put your personal message, and it will invite them to the chapter. And it'll put your chapter name in. It'll put where your chapter meets. It'll put the address and the city and the date that you meet on, as well as the time that you meet. And then it'll give a little bit of information about BNI. It will also say that they're looking for a person in that particular profession and to RSVP back with you. And it will include your name and your company name at the bottom of that email. So it will come from you. If they do hit reply to the email, it will also reply directly to you. So those are the visitor invitations. There is one other option in here, and that is email chapter visitors. So if your chapter is entering your BNI visitors, the people that come to visit your chapter, and let's say that you're doing a follow-up for those visitors, or you're doing a visitors day and you'd like to re-invite all of the visitors back to your chapter, or even a stack day, you can use the email chapter visitors function to do that. So if I click on email chapter visitors, this is similar to the email my chapter function. Now you can choose, let's say that you're doing a stack day just for accountants. You can choose anybody in the accounting profession from a certain date range, or let's say you're just doing a visitors day for your chapter. I can go back and let's say I want to get all of my chapter visitors since January of this year. I'd like to re-invite them back to the chapter. I can click next, and we can see that it brought up all of the email addresses for my chapter visitors. All right, and that email did come through, by the way. This is what the email actually looks like filled out when you invite a chapter visitor. So you can see it put in Dear Bob. It put in my personal message. It was great meeting you at the networking event. It told them that they're cordially invited to our chapter meeting, where it's located, and that we meet on Thursdays at 7 a.m. All right, so going back, one other operation tool in here that I'd like to show you guys is if your leadership teams are using the goal planning function, you can view your chapter goals through the Manage Goals here. Now, your leadership team does have to have put the goals in, but if you'd like to stay on top of the goals for your chapter, you can do so by going to Operations Chapter and then Manage Goals, and you can click on View Chapter Goals. You can put a date range in. So this is going to show me my chapter goals for the next 6 months. And my leadership team has yet to put the goals in, so they're not showing any details. But if your chapter is using the goals function, this is a way that you as a member can follow up with those goals. Let's look at some of the reports in the system. Now, the reports are really the heart and soul of getting the information back out of BNI Connect. So if we go to Reports, Chapter, you can see that there are quite a few different reports in here. I'm going to show you some of the ones that I feel are the most important ones as far as being a member in BNI. The very first report is the chapter roster report. So this will show you all of the current members of your chapter, but there's also some other great pieces of information in there. By clicking on the report, what I like about this report is that it also will show us all of the people in the leadership team. So not just the president, the vice president, the secretary, treasurer, but all of the visitor hosts, the mentors, the mentor coordinators, the membership committee, growth coordinators, all of the people that hold positions in my chapter. So let's say I have a great idea for how to bring visitors to the chapter. I know I can contact one of the growth coordinators of my chapter in order to be able to get in touch with them, and it has their phone number there listed for me. Or if I have a concern, I need to talk to my director consultant for my chapter. My director consultant is also listed here, as well as his phone number, so I can give him a quick call if I need to. And then as I scroll down, it will also show all of the members of my chapter. So what classifications they have, what their company name is, and any of their phone numbers if I need to get in touch with them as well. So you don't have to look too far if you need to get in touch with somebody in the system. It'll all be right here. It'll also give you a quick 90-day report on your activity in the chapter, so your referrals given, referrals received, the number of visitors these people have brought to the chapter, the number of one-to-ones they've done, and their lates and absences. So if you're also looking for how many times maybe you've been absent in the chapter, you can just find your name in the list and take a look to see if you have any absences over the last 90 days. Nearly all of the reports in BNI Connect, they can either be exported or printed. So if I wanted to print this out to a local printer, I would just click the print button, and it would allow me to print this roster out. I can also change it depending on your browser. So I happen to be using Google Chrome. I could change this to a landscape view if I like the way that looks a little bit better. Now, printing is largely dependent on your particular browser and which printer you might be using. So if you'd like more control over the layout, the better thing to do in that case is to use the export button. And all of the reports in BNI Connect can be exported as well. So I would just click Export, and what this is going to do is to open this up in Microsoft Excel. And we can see the report here in Excel, and if I'd like to at this point, if I want to change column sizes, make things wider, make things different colors, or format it in a different way, I could do that here through the Excel report. Now, the next report that I wanted to show you is the meeting notes report. Now, one of the best ways we can increase the number of referrals that we are able to give in our chapter is to pay attention to what people are talking about in their 60 seconds, and even better, to take notes when people are giving their 60 seconds. Now, a lot of chapters will have a meeting notes report, so they'll pass out a piece of paper that has everybody's name on it with a place to write notes in. But if your chapter is not doing that, you can still do that through BNI Connect. And the way to do that is to click on the meeting notes report and click Go. Now, this is one where you can just print it out. And again, it'll print out the form for you. But this is a great one that with just a couple of clicks in Excel can make it even more usable. So I'm going to go ahead, and you'll see this one has the option to export without headers, which means it won't include all of these parameters up here. Now, once I open this report, and Excel, because it was a web form, I have to enable editing. This is one of those great reports where with a couple of clicks, I can make it even more usable based on how I'd like the report to look. I might want to do something like, format this. And maybe I want to be able to give this one a little bit more room so that I have more place to keep notes. Now I can print this out. I can bring it to the chapter meeting with me, or maybe I even want to save it so I can enter the details on my phone or my laptop, but be able to pay attention during people's 60-second presentations, write down what it is they're looking for, and be able to produce more referrals in the upcoming week. And again, the great thing about this report, it will always be updated with your most current membership. The heart and soul of all reporting is the next report here, and that is the Summary POMS report. So if you're looking to check the activity in your chapter, this is the place to do it. Now, before BNI Connect, we used to always have to wait until maybe the vice president or the president printed out this report and brought it to a chapter meeting. You can go back and look at the POMS report anytime you want to by going to Reports, Chapter, Summary POMS. Now, you can choose any date range you would like to here. By default, it's going to pick the last 6 complete months. But if you want to look at just 1 week, or you'd like to look at, let's say, the lifetime of your chapter, you can do that. I'm going to leave it as the last 6 months for now and click Go. Now we'll see all of our chapter membership listed here, and we'll see all of the information that's stored in the POMS. Of course, POMS stands for present, absent, late, medical, substitute. RGI is referrals given inside, so a Tier 1 referral if that person had referred themselves to another member of the chapter. RGO, which is referrals given outside, so a Tier 2 or higher referral. RRI is a referral received, a Tier 1 referral received. RRO is a referral received outside or a Tier 2 or higher referral. V is for visitors, one-to-ones. TYFCB is thank you for closed business, and CEUs. So this is a great way to check performance in the chapter, both yours as well as the grand totals for your chapter. And again, if you'd like to manipulate this data or do more things with it, you can always export it out to Excel. Now, let's say that this report has too much information on it, and you'd just like your own personal stats. There is an awesome report in the system for that. And that is a couple of reports down, and you can look at the Personal POMS report. Now, what the Personal POMS report is, it just takes one name from the chapter, let's say yourself, for example, and it will give you a week-by-week history of your activity in BNI. So if you're on the membership committee, this is a great report to use for reviewing memberships, but it's also a great report to look at personally. So let's say I wanted to look at my activity. So I'm going to pull my name down from the list, and I'm going to go back to when I first joined BNI in 2002. So I'm going to go to January of 2002, and I'm going to look through this month. And when I click Go, this will give me the POMS data week by week and exactly what my performance was or my activity was every single week. And if I scroll down all the way to the bottom, I can look at my grand totals of my lifetime in BNI. Now, we do have another question from Ryan. What is CEU? CEU are chapter education units, and similar to continuing education units. So just like accountants and lawyers and real estate agents and mortgage brokers all need to go back through training on a yearly basis and have to accumulate a number of hours, kind of like credits. That is exactly what a CEU is for BNI as well. So as we go back to, let's say, the Member Success Program, or we listen to podcasts, or we read books in BNI, we can get credit for that as CEUs. And there is a CEU slip that you would turn in at the meeting, or there's an electronic CEU slip with the SLIPS program as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Ryan. If we have time at the end of the webinar, I can show you what the CEU slip looks like. All right, one of the next reports that I wanted to show you was a couple of reports up from here. There's another report called the Classifications Not in Chapter report. So a lot of times we hear, oh, I've invited everybody that I know to the meeting. I can't think of anybody else to invite to the meeting. This is a great report to help you spark your memory for who to invite to your chapter. So as I click on Go on this report, what this report will show me is every single classification that is in BNI and the popularity of it in our particular region. So what we can see is that it's telling us classifications that our chapter doesn't have and the number of chapters in our region that do have this classification. So what I can see here is that our chapter does not have anybody in the payroll services, and we also don't have a plumber. But I can also see that 9 other chapters in our region have both of these professions. Now, what that tells me is that this is a pretty successful and popular category in our region. And it would be a great person to invite for our chapter because I can point back to that success. I also know that all of at least these other 9 chapters aren't competing for that position because they already have that slot filled. And if you're just flat out looking for other ideas of who to invite, if you scroll down this list, you'll notice that there are about 400 or so different categories. So I can see that there, an esthetician is one that's in here, an esthetician, automotive sales, long-term care, weight loss, disc jockey. There's probably underwater basket weaving somewhere on this list, but all different ways to jog your memory and help you think of who you might know to invite to your next chapter meeting. Now we're almost at the bottom of the hour. The final report that I wanted to show you is actually a quadruple report, and that is the member details report. Now what's great about this report is that it allows us to do, for example, the gains exchange. So if you think back to your member success program, one of the things that we're taught in BNI is that before we have a one-to-one with somebody, we should be doing a gains exchange. And for you secretary treasurers out there, when we're introducing somebody for a 10-minute presentation or a keynote presentation at their meeting, we're going to want to get their bio and look it up. Now, both of these things were a bit of a manual process before BNI Connect. We'd have to go back through all of our forms that we had on our computer or emails and try to dig up that copy of the gains that we might have filled out 2 years ago, or try to pull up the bio so that we could turn it into our secretary treasurer before a presentation. Well, if you fill this out once on BNI Connect and keep it updated periodically, you can then get this information back out. So let's say that somebody was about to do a one-to-one with me. We have a one-to-one scheduled for tomorrow, let's say. What I would hope this member would do, and what they could do to do the gains exchange, is go to the member details report, click on View Member Gains. They would select me from the list, or I would select another member from the list that I'm doing the one-to-one with, and click Go. And this will pull up my goals, accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills, so that we can perform that gains electronically and make sure that it gets done ahead of time. And for your secretary treasurers out there, you can also pull up their bio, and you can also pull up their commercials. Now, the commercials are good to store in BNI Connect for a couple of reasons. Number one, the commercials are stored in your profile, so other people that see your profile in BNI Connect can read your commercials. Now, there's 140,000 people in BNI, 140,000 members. I can guarantee you that about 139,500 and probably 75 of them will never go to your chapter meeting. This is a great way to get some visibility and some credibility by keeping a couple of commercials stored in BNI Connect. The other great thing about this is, and I'm sure this has never, ever happened to you, but you realize that at the last minute you're not going to be able to make your next BNI meeting. Well, you managed to call somebody up, you get a sub at the last minute, but you're nowhere near a computer. There's no way for you to get a 60-second commercial over to them. Well, you can do one of two things. They can wing it, or you can get one of your fellow chapter members say, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you print out one of my commercials for me so that my sub has a 60-second to read at the meeting? Judith asks, are these generated by completing a profile? And yes, so as long as you click on My Account and you go to the Bio tab, so that's this fourth tab over here, or I'm sorry, the fifth tab over is the Bio tab. This is where it's pulling the information from. So My Bio, the two commercials, the Gains profile, and the Tops profile. So as long as you have those filled out on your profile, any other member of your chapter can do a Gains exchange with you. They could also print out your commercials and just build some credibility with you. Sophia asks, does today's webinar count as a CEU credit? If yes, what course title will it fall under? And Sophia, you need to check with your executive director in your particular region or your director consultant for your chapter as to how they count these towards CEU credits. On the official BNI slip, and let me go back and show you where the BNI slip is for CEUs. So if we go back to our home screen and the My BNI Business, if you were to record this as a slip online in BNI Connect, we would do Enter CEU. And what you'll notice is that there is not an actual category for webinars. Now again, please talk to your executive director or your director consultant to see how many course credits this would count for in your particular region. What many people do is that these courses and credits roughly account to the length of time of the actual training event or the networking event. So I know in our particular region, we would just count this as one of the one-credit courses. But again, please do talk with your executive director or your director consultant before proceeding. So we are at the bottom of the hour. For anybody that does need to leave right away, I want to thank everybody for the time. I am happy to stay on this call as long as people still have questions. But for those that do need to leave right at the bottom of the hour, again, thank you for being here. Please do take a look in a couple of days on youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. So youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. This is where we will have this webinar uploaded to. And you'll also, if you go to the support site, which is by clicking on the question mark in BNI Connect or going to support.bniconnect.com, scroll down to the bottom. You'll see that everything in the member level here in BNI Connect is documented. So if you need a refresher on how do I email my chapter members, well, go to chapter operations and the trainings, and you will see a guide for emailing your chapter. And it will give you step-by-step where to click, what to do, and how to do it. And it's the same for all of the other functions in the system, are all documented there as well. If you have a minute, please also like us on Facebook, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. We do a bunch of webinar announcements, daily tips and tricks, reminders, all sorts of things. Give us a like and follow us there as well. So I would like to open this up to any questions. If anybody has any other questions, I would be happy to answer those at this time. Excellent. If there are no other questions, again, thank you very much for being here today. A good referral for me is if you found this helpful, if you learned something new today, please go back to your chapters and let them know about these webinars. Please, I would love to have more and more people on these webinars, get the knowledge out of our heads and into yours. So please let your members, your fellow chapter members, and your regions know about these webinars. Again, thank you everybody for being here today. Happy connecting. Have a great week.